Hey guys, welcome to another Reaper blog video. Today I'm chatting over Skype with Vampire Stepdad. He is a synthwave artist. He uses Reaper for his live show and for all his composing. So yeah, we're going to talk to him and find out how he sets up his Reaper session for his live performances. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Should we call you Vampire Stepdad or?
You can call me Vlad.
Okay.
That'll work.
Cool.
Yes, I apologize for putting you through these sort of ridiculous things.
Well, at least we're going to have fun.
Yeah. Hopefully, anyways.
So you've been doing the Vampire Stepdad band, I guess, as an artist for a couple years now. And this year you started doing shows. Your first show was opening for Carpenter Brute, which is kind of the biggest name in the genre, which is kind of an amazing first show.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. Yeah.
So you talked to me earlier for advice on setting up your live session. I didn't have a ton of advice, I don't think, but let's see how things actually worked out, what you did, what worked, what didn't work, and that kind of stuff. So
you did suggest, now I can't remember the guy's name.
John Garden.
Yeah. So John Garden, he had like a 7 video series on how to use Reaper Live. And I watched over that, and I actually got a lot of tips from him. I stole several things from him. Not all of it was applicable, but a good amount of it was. And it definitely gave me an idea of like how to kind of organize things. But as far as taking my production sessions, I guess you'd call them, and turning them into live sessions, I play both keys and guitar while I'm on stage because my background's all metal and punk, and so I feel like if you're on stage, you should be playing something. I wanted to be as far from, pressing spacebar and dancing as I could. So, which, whatever, that works fine for some people, but so anyways, covering bases, backpedaling. So what I would do is I'd take my production session and I would kind of, I'd listen through and I'd decide which parts I think would be good for me to play and which parts I didn't want to play. What I would do is I'd take a production session. I'd pick and choose which parts I wanted to play. So for instance, I'd get my guitar lead, this track that I called Tinks for some reason, and bass. And I would make them red so they'd stand out just for future use. And I would bounce everything out to a backing track. And then I would also bounce the bass separately because I wanted to give the front of house guys a separate bass track so they could make the bass sound great. And then I would leave the drums as they were because I have a drummer who plays with me, and he actually he plays an electronic drum set which triggers an ESI 32 sampler. So that's actually completely separate from Reaper. But I keep these all the drum parts and everything in the session so that when I'm practicing on my own, I still have drums that I can play. And then a click track, because again, I wanted to give that to the drummer so that he would have that. So I did this with all the songs that I wanted to do, and then I imported them into a big master session. So I have 6 songs here. And as you can see, I have the click track for each one. I have the backing bass, and then the backing track is here, and then the bass track is here. And then again, I have drum MIDI, I got drum tracks all there. And when we play live, I just basically turn off the VSTs so it's not using any processing power. And he plays his drum parts. And I play these parts, which I have separated out and kind of color-coded. And these don't actually have any MIDI in them. Well, they technically do because they have program change information. So that's controlling the synth VST. But mostly the blocks themselves are just there as a sort of visual representation of when I need to be playing something.
Okay.
Which was sort of a backup. Luckily, I haven't, forgotten when to play parts. But it was just sort of there for a logical thing. And it helps me, like, as I'm practicing, if I need to jump to a specific part. As far as doing things live, because I needed to hop between several different synths, and I didn't know of a way to automate record arming. It's probably possible, but I don't know. I just never looked into it. I basically have everything record armed at all times. And what I do then is I use a bunch of mute automation here. Basically, everything is always muted until it's time to play, and then it unmutes. The place where that is the best is for the guitar, which is down here in red, because I don't have to worry about the volume knobs on my guitar. I don't have to worry about it not ringing out or anything like that. When I need it, it's making sound, and when I don't need it, it's not. So, because I'll play a guitar solo, and then I'll just throw it behind my back and play keyboard. And so not having to worry about turning things on and off.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good idea.
At first, I had automation turning the synths on and off, like bypassing them.
Yeah.
In the hopes of like reducing processing power as much as possible. I found that the act of turning them back on would actually make it kind of burp sometimes. And so I was just like, all right, I'll just try and reduce the amount of synths I'm using. So I took some patches I was using. Actually, like, see, this one's still labeled Tyrell because I was using
the UE Tyrell.
Yeah, UE Tyrell. I couldn't think of the company. I was using that one, but I decided to ditch it, and I just recreated the patch in Synth 1, which is a free synth, and which I love to death.
And it's super low CPU.
Yeah, exactly. That was admittedly, mostly it's because I just love Synth 1. A lot of people think it's a piece of crap, but I just adore it. And yes, it is super low CPU. So that was great. So I dumbed down the synths, so I'm using as few as possible. So I think actually, let's see, with everything, 6 synths, and then a guitar amp simulator, and then a couple wave files. So for the most part, it was pretty low processor intensive thing. And I think, all of them except for SQ8L, a couple SQ8Ls, which is another free synth. In case you haven't figured out yet, I'm very cheap. So that worked out well for that.
So to choose the different synths that you're playing, I know you said you had them muted, you're using mute automation, but I'm assuming that you're also using channel changes on your keyboard.
Actually, no. If you'll see here, when I press the keyboard, you're getting MIDI across every single channel. I could have gone with channel changes, but I just found the mute automation to be easier.
Okay.
I wanted to do as little as possible on the keyboard because I just wanted to be able to focus on playing the parts and performing for the audience. I didn't want to have to think, okay, I've got a patch change coming up, or okay, for this part I need to duck down 2 octaves or whatever. So actually one of the things that I did that I was really proud of myself for thinking of, this track is a bass. These are actually both bass tracks. And I've got this one tuned down 24 down. This one's 24 down. And that way, when I hit middle C on my keyboard, it plays a low bass note. And then over here, this is a lead synth, and I have it pitched up 12. So when I hit middle C on here, it's a high octave where I want to play. My controller that I use is only 25 keys. I don't even have to switch octaves really while I'm playing, because again, I just wanted to be as fast change as possible and not have to worry about, this part is up here. I mean, I guess you could kind of consider it cheating, but I don't care. I have fun on stage and people enjoy it, so it's good. The thing I really like about it is, like, in occasions like here, I go from playing one part here and one part here, like they're basic call and answer parts. And I mean, they're changing within a measure, and I don't have to do anything except for, play notes on the keyboard. I don't have to flip keyboards or flip channel changes. And so it gives me the opportunity to play more parts. Like, I don't have to say, well, I can't play that part because I'd have to switch to here. And, I can play more parts. Yeah, so it gives me more to do on stage, because pretty much any time, like the parts I hate the most are right here, where I'm not doing anything, and right here. Those parts drive me crazy. I should just be playing bass parts or something, but I hate playing bass parts.
Yeah.
As you can see, I'm pretty busy. I'm pretty much playing something at all times.
Cool. Can we talk about the virtual guitar amp you're using?
Sure. I have a really old version of Guitar Rig 3. I kind of made the tough decision that all my drums were going to sound the same for all these songs, and my guitar was going to sound the same for all these songs. For the most part, I pretty much use the same guitar tone for everything anyways. I mean, it's called 80s lead, so what else would I use? But yeah, I don't know if you want to know anything about it.
No, it's all right there.
Guitar rig. Yeah, exactly. It's not that impressive.
Rat pedal, single rectifier, dual rectifier, something like that. Noise gate, cabinet, delay, and a reverb.
Yeah, crap ton of reverb. Pretty much the way I like things.
So let's just review about like what's going to the front of house. So you're processing the guitars and the synths are live. So I guess it's a separate output for each one, or is that sort of mixed down already?
I've done both. For my first show, I had 8 outs. The click track was on one out. The backing track was on another. The backing bass and the bass synths, these were on their own output.
Mono or stereo?
Mono.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, everything was mono except for the backing track because I was trying to keep it down to 8. Well, and actually, I ended up offloading the stereo drum tracks onto a different sampler because originally I was trying to play drum samples within Reaper, but the latency times just weren't working out for me. I wasn't super happy with the audio interface I ended up going with, and I'm going to be eBaying it soon. But
so we won't mention that hardware.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. And then I had the guitar out on its own. So basically it was guitars, lead synths, basses, and then backing track and a click track. I was sending all those tracks out to front of house and letting them mix it. Of course, the click track only went to the monitors because I wanted to give, coming from my history and being in bands, I figured all front of house engineers wanted to have a bass and a guitar and drums, whatever, I figured they'd want them to be all separated out. And the venue I played at was perfectly fine with that, and everything was great. The second show I played was not so cool with 8 outs, and they asked me to dumb it down to 2 outs. And I said, how about we compromise on 5? So I gave them a stereo out of everything in Reaper. I gave them 2 tracks from my drum sampler, and then I gave them a click from Reaper. Actually, no, I never gave that I ended up giving that straight to my drummer from my audio interface. So I've done it both ways. And luckily with Reaper, because I've organized everything for the most part in folders, all I have to do is switch, which hardware output I want it. Or really, I just toggle the master send on or off. So if they want stereo, I'll do master send. If they don't want, or if they're fine with separate tracks, then I'll just, analog out 8 or whatever.
Cool.
The other thing that I did that I guess is kind of special to Reaper, custom actions. I know everyone loves custom actions. So I set up markers for each one of my songs, and then I've got my big old notes window so I know which song is next. But the other thing that I did that I stole from John Gardner is I made a custom action. Well, he came up with the custom action of stopping it once you hit the marker. Mm-hmm. That way your song ends and it stops, and that way you're not worried about it going into the next song or whatever. But I set it to stop and then kick straight to the next marker. That way I just had to hit play again and my click would start off and my drummer would be ready. It was super easy to make. All it did was go to the next marker and then stop. And it spits out this ugly command ID, and all you have to do is name the marker that ugly command ID, and it'll do what you tell it to do. So that's very cool.
Exclamation point and then the command ID.
Yeah.
That's a special thing that SWS extension adds. Just background information for anyone that doesn't have that. Another reason to install that extension.
Yeah. I think I installed that as soon as I started using Reaper, just because I saw everyone was like, you have to have it. So I was like, okay, I'm very obedient in that way. And then the only other thing is I had some markers to remind me to tell people to buy my merch and stuff like that.
That's a good idea.
But yeah, because in my experience, it's really easy to forget to do that. And because as an artist, you hate doing it anyways, but it's pretty important because, you got to remind people. The markers are pretty much the most Reaperiest part of this.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this conversation, there's another 15 minutes of it on my Patreon, patreon.com/thereaperblog. In that conversation, we're talking about his favorite synthesizers and also social media and marketing tips. Thanks for letting us stay up late to have this conversation.
You had already done your homework, so,
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out Vampire Stepdad. You can find him on pretty much every social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Support on Patreon. Visit reaperblog.net for a lot more tutorials.